welcome back to Cuyahoga Sound Podcast. I'm Evan Stone.
I'm Chuck Schilling.
And we're here with Thor Platter today, Americana singer-songwriter. It's like folk, bluegrass, country all mixed together. Yeah. Can you give us the definition of Americana?
No, I can't.
That was my best guess.
I know. I don't know. I mean, we're all musicians, so it's tough to define anything. You know, it's really, but yeah, all that stuff. You know, sometimes we play. Most of my gigs are with a trio with a banjo player and upright bass, and so anybody that's not a musician will immediately be like, "Oh, that's a bluegrass band." Well, it's far from a bluegrass band, you know. So, yeah, I think I just consider myself a singer, songwriter, and you know, I go through waves where I'm writing songs. But I'm always a singer, you know, and always a player. But there's a lot of times that I don't write songs for 6 months at a time. And as I've gotten older, I've become more and more okay with that. You know, like I'm not forcing things out. So sometimes, you know, 3 or 4 will come in a week, and then it'll be months. So
perfect. But you stay active.
Yeah, I mean, performing.
Right?
I'm performing, you know, all the time now. So
cool. How many times do you think you'd play a year on average?
Is this going to the IRS, or is this...
You don't have to answer
no,
that.
I'm kidding. You know, in the summer, it's madness, you know. The summer's just all sorts of different things going on. I'm only in a couple different bands, but for my stuff, it's probably... as Thor Platter in a trio and an arrangement or a full band or something like that, or even solo or duo, it's somewhere around like 50, and then... With the one band I'm in, Country Honk, we probably have another 20 gigs lined up this year. And then Sunshine Daydream's a Grateful Dead tribute. So there's a standard 12 gigs because we play once a month. And then in the summer, we probably play another 5 or something. So all those added up is where I'm at, which is probably around 100 and...
Nice. Is that once a month, residency?
Yeah, it's at the Winchester.
Oh,
in
cool.
Lakewood, yeah.
Cool.
So this month, it falls on 420, so that's kind of nice.
I just saw some Grateful Dead songs at the Winchester this past weekend. It was Grav play.
Oh, Grav's great. Yeah.
We love
you
Grav.
guys have had them. Yeah.
You know, and they played some Fish, too. And they, they...
The younger generation will do that.
They segued from that to the King of the Hill theme. And so
yeah, they're great.
It was awesome.
That's funny. Josh has played with Sunshine Daydream when I was out of town.
Oh, yeah.
So I've never got a chance to play with him. I might have sat in on some song or something, but, you know, I was... I don't know if I was in Florida or where I was, and they had Josh fill in for me. So I was like, oh, that's perfect, you know.
Cool.
Brought new energy to it, you know.
The Chewy Center played that show too. One of our good friends.
Yeah.
They killed it.
That's great.
I was a bit jealous, but it was nice to get back on stage myself. So.
Oh yeah, how was your gig, man?
Went pretty well.
Cool.
Knocked all the rust off, and played all right. I hadn't played drums live in like 2 years.
Was that a '90s band?
Yeah. So.
Cool. What are the most fun songs to play?
Foo Fighters stuff was a lot of fun. Actually, Nirvana's a lot of fun too. Yeah. So yeah.
Dave
Same
Grohl's
drummer,
great drummer.
Right.
Well, not, but some of it is right.
And we did Slither was a fun one to play. Like
I saw that video.
Yeah, playing Matt Sorum stuff is always fun. I always liked his Guns N' Roses stuff too. Yeah. So
cool.
I started playing Cochise instead of that at the beginning. Like I started off and I started playing that, and they're all just staring at me. Maybe I'll put out the extended cut of that video I posted where I fuck up at the beginning. Everybody's just staring at me like, "What are you playing?"
That was an interesting time, like early 2001, 2002, when, like 2 big super groups came out at once. Yeah. I was a big Audioslave fan.
Same.
Yeah. I dug those guys a lot. I was in high school in the 90s. I graduated in 98. So when Nirvana was big, which was, I remember being in high school, and I remember, you know, the news of Kurt's passing, and I just was still into the classic stuff that I was in. So I would hear it, and I had like one Pearl Jam album, and I think I got, you know, In Utero, or like, and I, you know, but it was in my rotation, but it was a lot more of like, you know, older classic rock stuff and things like that. And then about 2 years after that, I fully jumped right into it. And my cousins were into Pearl Jam, and I was like just totally, you know, digging in on West Coast. So yeah, when Audioslave came around, and anything that Chris Cornell touched, and it was great, you know. So I was really into it at that point too. But I was like most of the people had been in to that entire grunge thing. And it's when I grew up as a kid, my favorite musician and writer is Neil Young. So like it was obvious that I should have been a fan of all that stuff, but I was just like kind of holding back and like, well, it's okay.
I did the same thing. So I graduated in '99. I'm in that same era, and like I was listening to Sabbath and Zeppelin through the whole time.
Sure, right.
And then when I got out and started playing in bands and we were doing covers, I'm like, oh, these songs are all right.
Yeah. And you go back and listen to it, but now it's wild to go back and listen to those CDs if that's what you have it on or whatever, and it's like. I mean, just listen, because I remember being on a bus with my CD Walkman and listening to that Nirvana record, and then so when I listen to it top to bottom again, I just don't even. Your memory plays tricks with you, is what I was getting at. It's like it doesn't even sound like I didn't realize the songs were in that order or whatever, and I listened to it probably 80 times a month, at that point, and then just going back. So it's fun to like, because I'm sure you guys are like that too, where I want to listen to records front to back. I don't, the TikTok thing and the quick songs and all that's a great thing to get somebody's name out, but I want an actual 10-song album that I can listen to and have it make sense, which is like why in Vain I'm creating music like this where I can have that, and we spent a lot of time.
This is brand new, huh?
Yeah, it's going to be out at the end of the month. We spent a lot of time like sequencing the tracks to make what made sense about how it flows, and
you got an all-star lineup here, man. Your musicians.
It's an all-star lineup, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking at Thor Platter's brand new album, As Fast as It Goes.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So I had this really great idea that I was going to take all those guys to a studio up in Connecticut. I think it's in Connecticut, and I think I'm thinking about the dirt floor. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. Like you can go up there and you can like stay and just awesome, And it was so expensive, like and I was like, all right, well, let's dial it back. I'm from Buffalo originally, and I have a good buddy up there, Chaz Root, who mixed it and engineered it. And I wanted to do it at his house because he's got a beautiful house and studio, but he was in this construction phase right when I called him, like on a whim. I hadn't talked to him in a couple of years, and I was like, hey, man, I'm going to bring these guys up. We're going to do it in the spring. And he's like, oh, no, I just started ripping my house apart. And, So he suggested this Quiet Country Audio, which is up in Lancaster, which is just outside of Buffalo. So I was able to go up, take everybody up, stay at a buddy of mine's place who wasn't in town. And we did 2 days in there, and it was about 80% of the original idea that I had of going, but it was a lot quicker just to drive 3 hours up there as opposed to drive way out to Connecticut. But I just wanted to isolate everybody from friends and girlfriends and wives and all that stuff, which there's another way to make that too, where you just have everybody be involved in it, Yeah. But we just went up, we did 2 days, we had some pizza and wings, we,
nice.
had, I think we drank the second night, but I don't think we really had anything at all the first night. And it was funny because the dates that we were recording that were the first night we came back and we were sitting in, or maybe it was the night we got up there. I can't remember, but it was the Chris Rock slap. Oh, so it's like I remember it's March of last year. We were like Steve Renko that played drums. He was on his phone and he was like, "Hey, something just happened." And I'm like, "Whoa, this is which is like an iconic thing from the past couple of years."
Right.
But yeah, it was really fun, and we kind of got everything done in those 2 sessions. And then when I came back, Justin Gorski put keys on it. So that's the only thing that wasn't live and in there because it was an afterthought. We were going to have, actually Alfredo was going to play, he's playing bass on there, Alfredo Guerreri, and we were going to have him play keys, but we just didn't have enough time and everything sounded great in that moment. And then I was like, I really like keys on a few of these tracks, So we just did it that's the only after, or not even really overdub, and it was all live in a room to the point where there was a couple faults of that, where we had to take things again because you had, I couldn't punch in my vocals. Bass we could punch in, but Alfredo's flawless, so you didn't really need to do that. And Steve Renko's, amazing on drums. Anthony Papaleo, you see him once and that's it, So everybody just did this really great, these takes, but there were a couple things where little minor things would clash and we'd be all hearing it. It's like, oh, well, we can't, no, we got to run it again. We can't, So that was kind of fun and nice, to have to do that. And that's the first time I've made a record like that where it's been kind of tracked all together in a correct way,
It feels like the best way to do it, man.
if the band is as tight as we are, that's it. Otherwise you're just, I've made
and that's how you get 10 songs done in 2 days too.
Absolutely, yeah. And 9 of them were in the 2. The one we did it a couple years ago in David Mayfield's studio in Canton, and that one, just because I didn't have everybody so lined up at that point, we just did Steve playing drums and me on an acoustic, and then pulled everything that I had out of it. And Mark Lee Shannon plays guitar, and Anthony Papaleo plays on that, and then David himself did the bass. So that was, it flows with the record. I mean, anybody listening to it,
Which track was that?
That track's called Aurora on the Ridge. So anybody listening to that, you're going to hear the difference. You're going to hear, you're going to hear a different studio. You're going to, but it's really close. And we worked with Chaz, who mixed it and mastered it to fit it into there where it made sense, because I wanted it to be on that tangible album, because it was only on streaming services for a couple years. So
is that Lake Erie?
It's Lake Ontario, actually.
Oh,
yeah.
That's where Buffalo's at, right?
It's Buffalo's on Lake Erie, but it runs in between. Yeah, it's there's Niagara Falls and then Youngstown, Lewiston, Youngstown. It goes up to on the Niagara River up to Lake Ontario. So
nice.
My girlfriend's obsessed with this beach here, and she happened to just take this photo when we were up one time last year, and it looks right over to the right here is you can see Toronto, because if you it's really small, but you can see it across the thing. So
I like having a tangible album.
Yes,
it's nice. Like even just like scrolling through and seeing one that you've seen on a physical album, even when you're streaming, like it catches your eye. Like, I remember that.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. We had a deep conversation about album art a few podcasts ago.
Yeah,
and like how it's linked to your love of the music.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah, you remember that. You were reading the liner. I mean, as a kid, reading liner notes and seeing people's names, and then I'd talk with my buddies and my one buddy Eric that's up in Buffalo still, and we'd talk about, he'd be like, "Oh, you got to look at this album," and I'd look at it and I'd be like, "Oh, Cornell Dupree's on it." I didn't even know who Cornell Dupree was, except for that he played guitar and he was amazing. And then I just was trying to be cool with him because I was a kid, I was young. And then later on, like learning all these guys, or you see, you look in old liner notes and you see like Steve Jordan, who played drums on everything in the 80s, and played on Neil Young records and Madonna and all these different people. And then now, nowadays you can look up that person and get a photo of him in 30 seconds. But back in the early 90s, you couldn't, you just see a name on an album all the time. So
I used to write them down in a notebook, like
really,
musicians that were in bands.
Sure,
yeah, because I would or else I'd forget their names.
Yeah.
Are these both the Beachland? These pictures?
That one is out in front of a place in Lorraine, and
that almost looks like that.
It does look
the Beachland
in the lot,
yeah. But that's the tavern, right?
That's the tavern on the right side, yeah.
It's one of my favorite little stages in Cleveland.
Yeah, it's great. They put the new ceiling in and kept all the mojo, and sounds great in there. Yeah, I'm doing a CD release party there on. I hope it's May 16th because I think that's the date. So.
All right.
I think it's Tuesday, May 16th.
That's a Tuesday, yep.
Yeah. So that's, we're going to do, Justin Gorsey's going to join in on the band that night, which is cool because we really have never played live with him, even though he played on the record, And then he's going to open up a show, and we're just going to do one set and then drink in the tavern because it's cool, Nice. As opposed to, because I know it's a Tuesday, so I know a lot of musician friends will come out, and they don't want to sit there and watch me play, 90 minutes or 120 minutes. Like we'll play the record, play a couple, maybe a new song, maybe a couple covers, and then sit around and drink some tequila. Or
then
something.
Open jam.
No. Nothing against that, but let's just put some old records on and hang out until the bar closes.
So you're not totally having a ruined Wednesday.
Right.
Gets out of hand.
Right. I just want to do that stuff where that would entice me to come out to one of my friends' CD release, as opposed to like, I don't even want to say that because I feel like I'm going to describe somebody else having a release that I didn't go to. But having somebody be oh, come on out, and we got 3 openers, and then we're going to play this set. And, oh, yes, everybody wants to play more. No, I want to hang out. You know, we all play.
I'm so guilty of that. Like 10 years ago, setting up these elaborate shows for our CD release, and like by the time it's our turn to play, it's like 11:15. And everyone's been drinking through the first 3 bands. Yeah. And if like people want to show up to just see you, it's super late already, or it's late on Friday. If they're not there yet, it's hard to get there.
Yeah. And my fans are older. I mean, that's, you know, I was thinking about that driving over here, and I really appreciate them. And of course, that Tuesday is going to probably be a lot more musicians and friends than it is, you know, some of my fan base. But I do a monthly Sunday thing in the afternoon on the second Sunday, and we play classic country and honky tonk over at Forest City Brewery, and it's 3 to 6, and it's packed, and they're all wonderful old people, you know, like they're the perfect mix, and it's acoustic, and they love it, and then those people will come out to a lot of things that I'm playing, you know, on a Friday or Saturday night, if it's a little earlier, if it's, you know, which I'm finding myself in that too. Like, I don't want to go see a band at Smedley's at 10 o'clock on a Friday or Saturday now, you know.
Cool. Forest City is right before you cross the bridge into Cleveland, right?
It's in Cleveland. It's in the city. It's in the Duck Island neighborhood of Tremont and next to Ohio City there.
Okay.
On Columbus Road, before you go down the hill where Hooples is and the bridges and the flats and all that.
That's the bridge I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The flats, I meant, not Cleveland in general. Yeah.
Yeah, they fought a war there, I guess. You know, it was like a one-day war or something.
A one-day war?
Yeah, if you go to the brewery, the owner, Jay, my buddy, will explain the whole, I don't know. Sometimes I don't listen when but there was some sort of war that they blew a bridge up or something between Ohio City and Cleveland, because they were 2 separate cities up until a point, and one of them annexed the other. I don't know. We should. Right. I'm not going to talk about history. This isn't a history podcast, right?
No, but it's an open discussion.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. We've talked about cartoons for 30 minutes before.
Okay.
Yeah. We can do that again. I'm all right with that.
But yeah, I'd like to make another one of those records sooner than later, and probably do it at Suma or, you know, somewhere.
Yeah, this is awesome, man. I remember the CD, you open it up, the booklet, like that was the best thing.
Oh yeah,
you know, reading along with the lyrics too. That was fun.
I did that on my last record on the vinyl version, and I had the insert had all the lyrics because I did that when I was a kid, and then I don't know how well. I mean, I think it went over pretty well. I think a lot of people bought the vinyl and didn't even open it up. Because I get like a lot more messages from people that are, you know, I released that in 2017. And they're like, oh my gosh, I opened this up. It's beautiful, because the inside was like, had this orange thing or whatever. I was like, you bought that in 2017, you know? But some people, they just want something tangible, you know? And I don't know, I mean, I don't know who even has CD players anymore unless you're driving an older vehicle, but I still will buy a CD, you know?
Yeah.
I got to dig out an old computer to get my CD drive.
I was saying last week to a couple buddies, we were talking about... my girlfriend and I went to, I forget what movie it was, but around the holidays, I don't know if it was Christmas Vacation, something, we were trying to find it to watch, and it was $10 to rent it on Amazon, whatever the movie was. I don't know if it was Christmas Vacation. And then she said, well, I think I have that on DVD somewhere. Like, I was like, yeah, I think I do too. But then I remembered, like, I got rid of a whole bunch of DVDs, but now it's full service. Like, oh, everybody have these streaming services, but it's all blown apart because the real good things that you want to see, you can't see anyway, you know, which is almost like makes me now think like, well, I'm going to hold on to all these CDs because who knows, you know, however the next 5 years is going to go with streaming services and all that, and you might not be able to access it the same way, you know, you might have to spend $3 to listen to an album again or something, you know.
We dug out the DVD player for Christmas Vacation.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think it was like $10 to rent it. It was like,
oh, wow.
Fuck
yeah,
you.
Yeah. So it might have even been
They
that.
did that just around the holidays.
I just remember we were trying, you know, because you scroll through Netflix, you just scroll through and there's like, well, there's nothing really on. You just want something that you watched before. And then, yeah, I'm not going to pay $10 when I own maybe 3 copies of it that I can't find, you know. And we don't have a DVD player to play it on.
My PS2 is my DVD player and CD player.
Yeah.
I got to dig that out when I want. Speaking of, I just bought an N64 last week.
Whoa.
I'm having a blast.
Yeah. We've still got our Wii hooked up, and we play like Mario. Well, you stayed the one night we played Mario Kart on the Wii.
I have Mario Kart for 64.
Yeah,
that's I think my favorite one is the 64 one. Like that joystick works great with the game.
Yeah.
We used to play. I mean, I didn't consider myself that much of a nerd, but I got sucked into it a few times. Well, we played GoldenEye with 2 screens and block off. You play the 4-player.
No Odd Job.
And you block off the right. With like Manila folders at my one buddy's house. And so we had an AV splitter, and you could have teams of 2. So it was real nerdy.
And different TVs.
Yeah. So the TVs were back to back, and so you'd have people, you'd be sitting like this, and there'd be 2 tube TVs, right? Because there was no flat screens. Then we'd split out the feed. And so you couldn't, because that was the way you could cheat. You could look in the other person's split,
Right.
And then...
Well, that was part of the game.
Yeah. It was part of the game, right. And then
it's not cheating if everyone can do it.
They started doing like LAN parties, and that was too much. That was too nerdy for me to sit around and play Counter-Strike and all those games. So, but I played a lot of video games when I was a kid. I feel like... that helped my dexterity and my hand-eye coordination immensely. And I grew up playing baseball and hockey. And I think those things absolutely, I think video games today are totally different than when we played them, let alone before that. But the joysticks and like having your hands cramp up and all that is a lot different, than what people are playing on their phones now, or
right.
It's like just it's sucking your mind. So I credit that a lot, because sometimes I got to a point where I stopped playing video games probably when I was 12 or 13, which is when I got really serious about guitar, and was that person that was not going out as much and doing things, was just really focusing on the guitar, where it worked out a little better than I could have been a video game developer. I don't know, but that worked out okay.
So did you start around 12 years old playing guitar?
Yeah, I had a. Do you guys know what service merchandise is?
No.
It's a store where you used to go in, and you wouldn't really see anything in the front, but they had a huge warehouse of stuff in the back. Somebody told me there was something similar to it in Cleveland that was called something else too.
Best.
You would read a catalog, and you could open it up, and they'd give them the number, and they'd bring out whatever it was, and they had everything. It was it was like a Sears catalog kind of thing. So my first 2 guitars were from that. One of them, my dad, I left it on the floor in the middle of the night, and he stepped through it because it was dark. And as a 10-year-old kid, I left it right in the walkway. And he had a temper. He's a great man, but he had a temper, and he took it and threw it out into the creek behind our house. Now, I was asleep and didn't know any of this, and I didn't realize it. And I was like playing outside a couple days later, and I looked down, and there's like a hole in this guitar that was, it's probably like a $40 guitar or something. So I got another one of those, and then when I was about 14.
Acoustic, right?
Acoustic, yeah. When I was 14, it was my birthday, I think, and I got this Gibson Gospel that was, my dad went to House of Guitars in Rochester and got it. And then I just vividly remember opening it up, the way it smelled, the way it played, and I had, I probably got most of my major and minor chords down by then, and was really struggling with how high the action was on these crappy guitars that I had. And I had that, and I looked at it, and I remember like thinking like, oh shit, I'm going to actually have to learn how to play guitar, because this thing was like, I don't know how much he spent for it then, probably $700 or something, but that was a significant amount of money at that point. And then 6 months from that day, I was off. It was so much easier to play it. It was. I was just absorbing things. A really good friend of mine, my buddy Scott, I showed him the guitar the first day I got it. I think I was 13 or 14, and he was probably 30 at that point, because we're still friends now, and he's got a few years on me. And I remember him telling me like 10 years after the fact that he got really upset with me because he was a pretty good guitar player at that point. And then within 6 months, a year after I got that guitar, he got pissed.
He just whizzed right past.
Yeah, because he had a life, he had kids, he had all this stuff going on, but he was always, and still is, a real big inspiration for me in playing, in the way that, he had that, a life of, that he would travel a lot with his guitar, and he wasn't that great of a player, but he would like make songs up on the spot, and be in airports and layovers, and when he was on skiing trips or whatever, and like grab a guitar and start playing. I was like, that's pretty cool,
So what were some of the things you were playing early on?
A lot of Neil Young. My sister, who's 10 years older than me, had a great record collection and exposed me to it pretty young. So, like American Beauty by Grateful Dead was one of the first records I remember listening to her. She had Bruce Springsteen, which now she admits that she's a fan of, but for a lot of years she didn't. She denounced it, and she was like, I was never a fan of, because there was a point where it wasn't cool to be a Bruce Springsteen fan. We were too young, but she was like, no, absolutely not. But my sister was sneaking out to see Dead shows before. She's 10 years older than me, so when she was in high school, and they went to bless you. They went to I don't know, New Jersey or something to see the Dead. But so I started playing a lot of that and a lot of Neil Young and any books, Dylan, like a lot of stuff I can get my hands on.
Yeah.
So
Evan's dealing with his allergies over here.
They didn't know that. Yeah. Well, the video.
They did. The video people did.
The video.
The creeps. The creeps do it. I was getting weirded out there. You told the story about your dad stepping on the guitar. So, like, my very first drum set was that Smurf drum head on the wall. That was part of it there. And I left it just outside of his bedroom door, and he came out after, gigging until, 3 a.m. or whatever, kicked right through the other side of that bass drum head. And, and then I ended up getting a new drum set. But
hand me some of that whiskey. That always helps with my allergies.
Which one do you want?
The one in your hand.
The Underground? All right. We'll save this one for Chewy Center when they come back.
No. We'll drink it this summer.
We've only got 6 more till we're taking our summer break.
Yeah, you guys, our listeners don't know that yet.
Oh,
we are taking a break for the summer. We're going to end with episode 69.
Yeah.
What episode is this?
64, I think.
4. Yeah, 64. Yeah, 64.
I played a lot of that. A lot of 70s singer-songwriter. My dad was into old blues, which was real easy when you're a kid. Like, you're like, oh man, look at this form, and I can do this, And he was a lot of classic stuff, and and then I just would get whatever chord book I could get my hand on, because there was no internet at that point. There were some like the BBS systems you could dial into and get some chord sheets, but they were in. Then I started from an early age. Now it's gotten way better, but they were all wrong. Yeah. The people that did the tab and did all that, they were all wrong. Their ears were horrible.
Right.
Those people, like, if I run into, like, whatever you see the name, like, tabbed by and then whatever that person, if I ever ran into that person, like, you'd be like, don't do this. You're not good at doing this. Your ear is not there. You think an A minor is a C. It's not.
Yeah, there's some YouTube channels of old tab books, like,
and
how
people go through them.
Yeah,
there's even published books that were. I remember a Neil Young book, and it was something like that. It was like, they had listed a D instead of a B minor. It's like, you can't, what? Like, you can't, I realize it's the relative minor, but you can't do that. Like, it's not, it sounds totally different, especially like on an open chord, acoustic song.
People are paying money for this at that point in time.
Yeah. There's editors, there's people that had music theory degrees that had to sign off on that, They were probably all drunk. But yeah, I just, I kept trying to learn as much as I could, and I remember significant, like, plateaus that I got to, our milestones, and I was probably 22, so about 10 years in, and I felt like I was pretty accomplished and I could go above the 3rd fret, play where a lot of my friends really couldn't. I had these friends growing up in Buffalo that were either like masters or they knew a few chords, and there was no in between, and then I found myself like in that in between thing, So it was great. And then when I moved to Cleveland, I met, some of my best friends who still are now, and then everybody that I play with is way better than me.
How long ago did you move here?
2008. And so I really started getting, I started getting into the music scene here maybe 2 years after that.
What did bring you here?
Day job that I had. I was working in Niagara Falls, right outside of Buffalo, and for a company that was based in Colorado. And so I moved just to move, And I thought they also had a site that was in Kentucky. I don't know where it was, but somewhere down. It was I would have lived in Clarksville, Tennessee, and been less than an hour from Nashville. So that was my idea. I was like, all right, I can drive an hour to work, and I can drive an hour to Nashville at night and live in the middle, you know. So that didn't happen because I just fell in love with Cleveland. It was everything that Buffalo should be, and that's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt when I try and take this CD up to Buffalo. But
I'm gonna cut that out and say this dude from Buffalo.
I know. They know it. They know it. My friends that come down.
Well, we don't cut many things out.
I know you guys don't. Yeah, I love Buffalo. I love the people there. My family. I still have, a bunch of friends there, and they really try. But as soon as anybody gets down about this city, about Cleveland, like I'm the biggest fan of Cleveland and Northeast Ohio, and there's everything. Everybody, at least we try things here. At least we're. And that's not, I'm not even talking about the music scene, just everything. But the food, the way that people are here is pretty great. So I instantly fell in love with that, and that was around 15 years ago. I mean, it was pretty rough on the west side of Cleveland. It was pretty rough a lot of places, and it's gotten much better. But so I just decided to stay. In about 2014 or 15, I was going to quit that job and do music full time because I was getting burned out. I didn't quit, and then I met the don't really give a shit worst boss I've ever had in my entire life. That then about 2 years I stayed on, and then it made me want to quit really, really bad. But I found myself in a divorce outside of that whole thing, and it was 2019, and I was like, well, I'm just going to ride this out while I do this, and I'm going to buy myself a house, and then I'll quit. It'll be, I kept pushing it off. So that boss continued to be pretty horrible, and I've been with this company for 13 years or so, And anyway, the COVID fired me, and it was the best thing that happened to me. It was the best. Nice. And I got out of the job. I got to not have that stress. I got to not be responsible for all sorts of stuff and focus on music. And it just really gave me a kick in the ass to pursue what I want to do and become way happier and way less stressed than I was with that job, So in the times that I was going to quit that day job, I was thinking about moving to, like Nashville or Austin or something like that. And it doesn't matter. It does, you know what I mean? Like I feel there's a lot of smoke and mirrors in those Nashville artists, and some of them are my friends, and they, do really great things down there. But at the end of the day, I don't know if that's more rewarding than just being based here and being, part of this Northeast Ohio scene that is certainly rewarding for me. I don't know how you set your
your measurements of success.
Yeah, right. Your success, man. Yeah, it's because who cares?
Satisfaction and enjoyment.
Right. I tell this story a lot, but I had
we get it a lot out of just doing these.
Sure. Right. Right. Who you're meeting and hanging out with. I had a couple that came to see me all the time, and I took them for granted. And they were fans of a really good friend of mine that played bass with us for a while in the trio. And they came to see us at we used to play the Burntwood taverns that were around. They don't really do music anymore, but it was a nice little weekend night gig, and paid us really well, and they fed us, and it was cool. And it would just kept us plugging along while we were in town. And this couple came and saw us fairly regularly, probably once a month, twice a month, something like that. And then I took them for granted, and my buddy that was playing bass he hadn't heard from or whatever, and they were just gone. I don't care. I mean, not that I don't care, but I don't notice it because I'm like, no, they're not there anymore, whatever. About a year later, they come back, and the dude's frail. Cancer. He was in the hospital for 6 months. He was in this this whole thing, and they went through this whole part of their life that I was just like, whatever, I'm playing, and I go home, and I didn't know anything that was going on like that. And she told me that on the set break, and she said that their nightly ritual in the hospital was to play my record from top to bottom. So they were sitting there like singing along with these songs as we're playing them in one of the fucking Burntwood taverns when people are clanking drinks and trying to impress their friends because their hush puppies are $18 or something, you know. But we're the three of us and the two of them are having this clicked in moment when we're playing originals and singing that. I was like, you know what? That's it right there. I could be done. Like, you know, those people connected to my songs and it got them through something. Like, that's not even why I started writing music, you know, like just blindsided me. So when anybody says that they love a song that I wrote or whatever, and I don't ever feel like anything that I'm writing is great at all, you know, I'm proud of this record. I'm proud of the songs. I'm proud of the people that helped me make this record, but I've definitely got better songs in me than what's on that, you know. And I love those songs, but they're still you know, they're still coming. They'll be there. But
I feel that, man. I think when somebody told me that an album I was writing, or just played on, I should say, got them through some hard times, that gave me like more goosebumps than anything else.
Sure, yeah, because we've all had those. I mean, I you know, got a handful of stuff I'm thinking of right now that I know of. You know, just when I was going through my divorce, like what would you get on the treadmill and what were you listening to? You know, it's like my sister when my dad passed away in 2000, my sister she was like, "What are you listening to?" Because I dug real deep and sad, you know, and she was like, "I can't even listen to music right now." I'm like, I don't know, just gets me through it, you know. And I remember being just. Yeah, but I mean, it was like real sad stuff. I'd find any dad song I could like on iTunes and just be like, "Well, can I get myself to, you know?" But yeah, I wrote a song on here called "This Guitar" about we were talking about that Gibson Gospel, and so that's about him. You know, I mean, it's loosely based on that, and you know, I remember writing it and being completely emotional and couldn't even put my words together in my room, just crying about. It wasn't about that actual song, you know, it was about shit that I was going through at that point, but it was very cathartic. So now I just get to the point where I sang it 100 times and I can separate that out, you know.
You're going to release this digitally on May 16th or whenever you're...
no, it's the last Friday of this month. April 28th, is that?
I'm not sure.
Sounds
great.
Something like that.
Yeah. Because I think you can release anything any day you want, but I still felt like Fridays were, when I was a kid, Fridays were the thing. So, or no, it wasn't. Wasn't it for what? Tuesdays, right?
Yeah.
So then it flipped to Fridays.
Oh, right, yeah.
Everything digitally.
Tuesday was when you get in the line at Best Buy.
Right. Yeah. Monday night at midnight or whatever. Yeah. So I just figured I would do it on a Friday, and you know, they're on CD available just a little bit before the release, and I've shipped a bunch out. Like I sell them on my website, and people, I think, again, I don't know if they get them and they just don't even play them. I know a few people do because they got them and then sent me an email with, you know, it opened and in their car or whatever, you know, and the CD text works on some of the car stuff.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't hear much difference in quality between CD and digital unless you get the right headphones or speakers to play it out of.
Yeah.
And then digital can break it up more in like the spatial audio headphones.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And like, I mean, I'm a real big fan of Apple Music because they have that lossless thing, and it makes you realize how horrible Spotify is. Yeah. I mean, Spotify is great for like reference, but it sucks. You know,
I don't know about this.
The quality sucks. I have YouTube Music. I don't have Apple Music. My girlfriend does, and we'll listen to stuff just even on her little JBL speaker, and it just sounds way better if you click in on the lossless stuff. You know.
Like clearer?
Everything. Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's like, you know, it's like listening. It makes, when you go back to Spotify, Spotify's like an MP3 that's even more compressed, you know. It doesn't really open it up. You can't hear it.
Spotify's like now just my workhorse. So like if I did this fill-in gig, I put their 75 songs on a Spotify playlist. So
yeah, that stuff's real easy in the way that I do like the interaction with Spotify with that aspect and the sharing it, and you can share those playlists to people that don't pay for premium Spotify and they can still listen through it. Like that's pretty great, and Apple doesn't really allow you to do that as much, but
and by doing this, I'm also not contaminating like my recommendations in Apple with the songs that I've heard too many times because I've been practicing them.
Right, you fill in with one country band, and your whole daily mixes are
yes, just split them up. That's my recommendation for the week.
Yeah,
that's great. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, we got to pause. We should go into Chuck Kaminsky, the basement trader.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Let's throw our sponsors out there.
Yeah.
Tell everyone about Basement Trader. Our good
Basement Trader. He's back. He went camping this past week. Got away. He looked like he had a great time.
Good. Always having a great time.
Always having a great time. But Chuck Kaminsky is the Basement Trader out of Painesville, Ohio. He's got 2 reverb.com shops where he's got, one of them is just guitars and basses, and the other one is like amps and accessories. He's got some cool stuff coming up. He's got like a 66 Rickenbacker, something with it's got a Bigsby on it that I guess is pretty cool. I haven't seen that yet. He's got a 2012 SG in a custom like autumn burst finish. He's got a 68, I believe, Gibson ES335 coming up.
Oh, wow.
So he's got a lot of cool stuff that's going to be coming up real soon.
Does setups and repairs.
Quickest
turnaround
right.
I know of.
Yeah, absolutely. I put new strings on that Rickenbacker, and I think I might have it fixed, but the nut slot for the D string there was just not quite right.
It's always that D-string nut slot.
Yep.
That always gets you on the bass.
I was like, man, I was playing. So see my finger how it's messed up it is? I've been practicing Rush, which is very aggressive on there with the pointer finger.
That's quite a blister.
Yeah, I was digging in, man. And like this one spot, I just could not get that first fret right. I just kept buzzing out every time. I'm like, what the hell am I doing wrong? And then I took a look at it, and that string's like a mile high. I was like, oh, all right, I don't feel so bad now. But Chuck Kaminsky, I'll be bringing that over to get it worked on and cleaned up.
Cool. We're also brought to you by Enlightenment Event Lighting. Check out Brian and Emily Klemonic's lighting services for any of your shows that you want lighting at or events. Go to Enlightenment Event Lighting on Instagram and Facebook to check out all their services.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to Jason Myers, the executive director of Roots of American Music.
Yeah.
And one of the co-hosts of Neo Rocks.
Yeah, Jason's great.
Yeah.
He used to be Jason Patrick Myers.
Well, he's Jason Patrick Myers still, we found out on our interview.
Good.
But when he performs solo, he's Jason
then he
Patrick
still goes
Myers.
by JPM. Okay, good. That's good to know.
Serial killer name.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So you don't want to have a John Cougar issue. Yeah, Jason's great.
Cool. Also, one last shout out for Jones Drones, Cleveland.
Yeah. Russell Jones is the man. He's doing not only videos for all kinds of everybody now. It seems like he's doing videos for everybody. He's got stuff. He's got content out every single day.
That's right.
But he's also teaching classes. So if you want to go get your drone license, trust me, it is not that easy. It'd be great to have an instructor for that. And I can't recommend it anyone more than Russell Jones. JonesDronesCLE.com.
One thing we don't talk about much is his video and photo editing skills.
Yeah.
But when he gets in that computer and the software,
That's where the money is too. Yeah,
makes everything bright.
Yeah.
Cool. And lastly, listencle.com, mood-based playlist showcasing music by Northeast Ohio artists. Find all 9 playlists on listencle.com and also sign up for their musicians database, which helps people looking for live music for their events find people.
Find you.
Find local musicians. You. It's very easy to sign up if you go to listencle.com. It's a self-guided right through signing up.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right. So I found it like I'd been slacking there on watching our recommended videos that people have, movies and stuff.
Recommendations.
So,
last question will be.
Will be a movie recommendation or movie TV show or YouTube channel.
Okay.
So you got time to think.
Oh, wow.
So I watched last night, my wife and I sat down and watched Into the Deep, which is on Netflix, documentary that is about, I think it says documentary about murder on a submarine. So that was not what it was supposed to be. It was just this eccentric inventor that was trying to get into space, and he'd already built submarines. And in the middle of the filming this documentary, the guy murders somebody. It is the darkest thing I have ever seen in my life. It is absolutely worth watching.
Who recommended that one?
I don't remember. But it was fantastic. It was riveting. But like I got done. I had to watch cartoons for like 4 hours afterwards. It was the darkest thing.
Wow.
Because the guy basically like confesses through the whole thing what he's going to do. He's had this whole plan. So at the end of it, I'm thinking like, I don't know if he built this. The whole reason he started this whole going to space mission was to build the submarine to be able to kill somebody on. Like, it's just dark, but it's absolutely worth watching.
It is worth watching.
It's totally worth watching, but get yourself prepared. Have some very, very light things to watch afterwards, because I went to bed afterwards. I'm like, I don't know.
Or watch it in the morning.
This world
Get up early.
This world is rough.
Wow.
Absolutely recommend that. And the Mario Brothers movie, I went and saw that. On the lighter note, definitely not as dark. And Charlie Day is Luigi.
All right.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I didn't know that going in.
Good.
I was like, hey, Charlie's here. All
Just
right.
that voice always makes me smile.
Yeah,
It makes
same.
everything lighter.
Same.
We were out in Sandusky a few weeks ago, and I said to my girlfriend, I was like, we should go see a movie. Like, I don't know if it was Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon. She's like, yeah, cool. Like, we figured we could, and she's like, what do you want to see? And I was like, well, there's a new Wes Anderson movie that is out. It's not out. But I started seeing commercials for it, and I was like, yeah, I'm like, going to look it up. Huh?
Gravity Falls?
No, I'm drawing a blank now. It's like a town name or a state name.
Oh. Well, Gravity Falls is the name of the town in that movie that's coming out.
Oh. There's two movies. I think there's two movies.
He's doing two movies?
Yeah,
Cool.
I think, it slips my mind. If only we had some way to look it up, but you can cut that right out of there. That was a lot funnier when I knew the name of the movie, because I was like, oh yeah, I'm like, well, whatever. Like, they play it 3 times, and we could just go see it and get a beer before or something. But yeah, what is it? It's called. It's like a Western theme thing, but it's his same weirdo, scene cuts and all that stuff. But I think there is 2 movies coming out.
Nice. Cool.
Guy's productive.
Yeah. Gravity Falls looks good.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Let's talk to you about the 216.
Oh, all right. Yeah, we can go into that.
All right, this is our newer segment, the 216. We're going to ask you to name 2 desert island albums, 1 venue you'd like to see, and 6 artists you recommend we should be listening to.
It's funny. We came up with this to have like shorter content we can put out,
It's
and
great.
then when we get going on it, it lasts like an hour.
It's half the podcast.
We've only had like one where it lasted like 10 minutes.
Okay, what's the 2 again? Sorry.
The 2 is 2 desert island albums.
Oh, okay. In a venue I've never been to, you're going to say. Or
that you'd like to perform it.
Oh, perform it. Oh, shit.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 albums. I think the first one would be Neil Young Harvest, because I love the last 4 tracks on that. Like, I think that was right where he was getting into like everything that I loved about Neil Young. And Heart of Gold is fine. The fact that it's on there is great. And the second one probably. I was watching something the other day, and somebody's like, you should never ask somebody their favorite. You just ask what they're into lately. So now that's running back in my head, where I'm trying to think of
What you're into lately is the 6.
Yeah, right. But that's that's. I don't know. So the other one would be
A lot of people go live albums because they're longer.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
Right.
Gosh, I really think Southeastern Isbell is probably like up there, and it'll stand around for 100 years. I don't know how it couldn't. The way they recorded that, the way that all was. So those, I'm okay with those 2. I'm not gonna think about it. The venue I'd like to play, it's kind of tough because I never foresee how big something will get, and I don't want to play somewhere like Red Rocks when if I'm not going to be able to be that level of a person, So, but I guess if it's just like if I don't think of anything else in it, I'm just going to say Red Rocks, because why not,
Yeah.
But realistically, if that's not it, I would say my there's up in Lewiston, New York, there's Art Park. It's just a great venue that reminds people of the Gorge in Washington, which is like another great thing. And Art Park they have a summer series, but they don't really do the same way. Art Park.
Arts Park.
Yeah. In Lewiston, New York. So that would be really cool, because that's like, remember going there as a kid and seeing stuff. That would be, pretty great to play that. And then the 6, what was the 6?
6 artists we should be listening to.
Oh.
And they can be local, they can be whatever.
Right.
Yeah, throw it.
Well, they're not going to be like local because I get a lot of shit from people sometimes. In general, if I don't mention someone, so nobody local. Don't listen to anything local. No, I'm just kidding. You guys have a lot of people on here. Like
that's the forgetting chair too. You'll always forget somebody.
Sure. Yeah. But I think there's some great. Obviously, this is great stuff. You don't need me to say that. Like, there's great people. You guys have had them on here. Some of my friends. Some people I'm not friends with. You know.
They've all been cool, so be friends with all of them.
Yeah. Not that I'm not friendly with them, just that I haven't maybe met them. But yeah, I think 6 artists. I think Jason Isbell does really. You know, he was just such a great. I saw him at with the Drive-By Truckers one time in Milwaukee, and he came out and had about. He was down to like the shoulder on a Jack Daniel's bottle, and he put it on his amp. And I was like, bullshit. There's no way this guy, like, what is this? He's not drinking, whiskey. It's like there's iced tea in that or something, Finished it. They came out for their encore. I think they came out for their encore and he had it and he like put it back and there was just a little bit left and he walked off stage. And then like within a year he was out of the band and then went through his whole thing and got sober and did all that. And I was like, holy shit, he drank a bottle of Jack Daniels on that stage, So the shit that he was writing in that time and after that time, like we as musicians could have lost someone like that very easily, So like for the fact that he got sober and that was good for him, and he was able to create all that stuff, I think he's just a great artist.
I was impressed when I saw him at the Lock-In Festival in Arlington, Virginia.
Yeah,
and I had never heard of him then, but like I was checking out all the artists I'd never seen. He was like my favorite of the ones.
Yeah, just great.
He was with a 400 unit.
That's his band. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think that's such a tall thing for 6, so I'm not going to overthink it. But I think sometimes I get turned on by writers or by like musicians from it's like 2 different aspects if they're writing a song or they're musicians, So that's what I'm going back and forth on in my head. I think people like like Jackson Browne was great back in the day and such a great catalog of stuff that in deeper than what just what you hear on the radio or what you might have heard. All right, so let me just say that's 2 because I like all Jackson Browne. Everybody listens to Neil Young, so I'm not gonna put that on there, but. Can I consult my playlist here? Because this will make it easier. Let me do that. I just was thinking about
the phone of knowledge.
Right. Just see what I've done. My recent activity of stuff. Then it'll come back to me.
Anything new you've heard in the past couple weeks?
So today it was a fantastic day to sit out in a lawn chair, have a beer, and listen to Fox Ears.
Oh yeah.
So I did that for a bit today.
I know one of those guys or 2 of those guys.
When I went out for a walk, I was listening to Nothing Shocking from Jane's Addiction.
All right.
That was hadn't listened to that whole album in a long time, so that was a good one to catch back up on.
Cool. I was a big Linkin Park fan back in the day, and they just released Meteora Expanded Edition, and there's about 20 to 30 demos on there. So what I never knew is it's a 12-song album. One of them is an intro and one of them is an instrumental, so it's really 10 songs.
Yeah.
And they put together like 30-some songs for this album and just picked the best 10. Oh. And there was like alternate versions of songs with different choruses. So the big hit was called Somewhere I Belong off that album.
Yeah.
There was 5 other choruses that didn't make the cut before they counted on the one.
Wow.
All right, I got them just off of that, just to refresh my memory.
Yeah.
Mike and the Moon Pies, you know those guys?
No.
They're friends of one of a Northeast Ohio native that's down in Austin. But he plays with a bunch of people down there, and he turned me on to them probably 3-4 years ago. They're just like this great glitter country. That's my word. It's not what but it's just like smooth. The chord changes are really great.
Mike and the Moon.
Mike and the Moon Pies. They're great out of Austin.
That right now.
I did have everything down. What was the other one that I just saw in here? I'm from Buffalo originally, so we had a lot of Canadian influence bands and stuff. But
Wasn't Rick James from Buffalo?
What's that?
Wasn't Rick James from
he's
Buffalo?
buried there. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I took my girlfriend to see his grave a couple years ago. It's great. It's a beautiful cemetery. It's like what we have out east here. That thing. So there's growing up, I had like the Tragically Hip was a band out of Canada in Gordon Downey, the way that he wrote songs and the way that he sang and his phrasing and stuff like that's a huge influence on me. I don't know if you can hear it in any of my stuff, but definitely the writing. Like I've lifted some things from that dude for sure.
I had a chance to get into them a little bit in like 8th and 9th grade. There was a alternative rock station, 107.9, The End.
The End.
Nice.
And so it went off the air. It went out with a bang. They played "End the World as We Know It" by REM 3 days straight for their last 3 days. So there wasn't another rock alternative station in Cleveland for a few years, but we could sometimes get 95.9 from London, Ontario, FM 96, and heard a lot of Canadian music we would never heard.
I used to listen to that too.
Yeah. I was already a big Our Lady Peace fan, but they played like double the songs they did, the deeper cuts. Matthew Good, I think, was another guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I saw all those guys at like these freedom or friendship festivals, and they would do them on where the Peace Bridge is that runs in downtown Buffalo between Buffalo and Fort Erie, and they would. I'm not Canadian, so it doesn't matter that I missed this. But July 4th, I think it's July 3rd is Canada Day. I think it's the day before. I don't think it's the day after. Whatever.
What's Boxing Day?
Day after Christmas.
But what is it?
I don't know.
What is it?
I'm
tearing down all those boxes from all the Christmas gifts.
Yeah, right. I grew up 10 miles from the border. But anyway, they'd have the Friendship Festival, and they'd have bands on each side all day, and you could walk over the bridge back and forth because it was the 90s, and but Our Lady Peace would play that all the time, and all those bands. But so that I would say the hip, definitely Canadian influence. There's a band out of Buffalo called Handsome Jack that is kind of blowing up, and they're doing huge European tours. Not huge, but they're doing big European tours. And I was in a band in Buffalo, in Lockport, New York, and we had a rehearsal spot right next to those guys, and they were like really young kids that time. Handsome Jack, yeah. They're just rock and roll. It's just, that's really great.
Have you heard Aqueous? Mike Gantz.
Yeah, I've heard that.
They're
band
from
before,
Buffalo. Yeah. They're bigger in the jam scene in like the last few years.
Yeah. I've got buddies up there. My one buddy, Mark, that's a filmmaker, is a huge fan of all those. Every time somebody comes through, he's like, going to see all those fans. And then 49 Winchester, that I was saying earlier, like I just went to see them. I got turned down on them last year at Americana Fest in Nashville. Just, weren't even on my radar at all. And then, of course, after I saw it and posted it, of like, hey, do you guys, anybody know this band? Are you kidding me that this isn't, And my one buddy, Clint Holly. You guys know Clint, that he's down in Virginia now doing really great stuff. But anyway, he was like, yeah, I had these guys in the studio, like they, he's like, I got all their phone numbers. Like they're from Virginia. Like it's not that big of a deal. I was like, okay, well, it's going to be a big deal. So now they're on a tour that just sold out every venue that, little smaller venues, but beach and ballroom type of things where they just,
It's 49 Winchester.
Yeah, I guess they're from Russell County, Virginia, which is southwest Virginia. You have to take that pause. It's not West Virginia. It's,
and the little strip of land.
Yeah. And they I guess they all got together on Winchester Street. So that's what I just had heard when we went to that show. Right. I don't know if 49 was the number or they just picked that number, but maybe you guys can have them on the podcast sometime when they come through the Cuyahoga Valley, All right. But so that's I think that's 6. That's good. I feel good about 5. That. Marty Stewart and his fabulous superlatives. You can't beat that, man. That's the best band you will see live at all.
All right. Well, Marty what?
Marty Stewart.
Marty Stewart. Okay.
Yeah. Right now, the lineup is incredible.
Cool. So this has been the 216 on Cuyahoga Sound Podcast.
We'll actually be able to cut this one and use it.
Yeah. Well, since we introduced it, like all our guests have been like 3-4 piece bands, and
yeah. So everybody raised theirs. Yeah, it's an hour.
Right.
So we try to say six between you, but that ends up being like 20.
Yeah,
so.
It's a lot of pressure on there, but I just let it go.
New music for us, though.
Yeah,
you get to hear everything.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, cool. So, what about some of your other influences that maybe you haven't mentioned yet that go into your songwriting or guitar playing or vocal styles?
A lot of old country. A lot of all the Hanks. I think William Hank Snow, Willie Nelson. A lot of 70s country.
The outlaw
Waylon,
stuff.
a lot of outlaw stuff. Yeah. My dad was into that stuff too, and that was my alter influence from my sister being into so much rock and roll. And I had the Police Synchronicity on vinyl. No kid had that 'cause my sister had it. So that kind of got me into more like electronic-y sounding things too, which I don't do any of that, but loved it. And then when I was a kid, I would listen to like Rick D's Top 40 every week, and with my buddy Nick in the basement of his house, and like tape it and listen back to Madonna songs or something. We'd be totally into. So I've always just been into all sorts of music.
That was another thing I used to write in my notebook, like every week.
The top. Yeah,
it was a top 20 thing.
Top 20. Yeah.
I don't remember. It was on the radio on Sundays.
But it makes me like where I love Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga. I haven't seen her live, but we went and saw Casey Musgraves because I'd seen her before in Nashville, and we went and saw her at the Q, and it was incredible, and it was like me and maybe 5 other dudes, and then 17,000 girls.
Well, that ain't bad.
Well, yeah, but it was like I still was totally into it. The music was amazing, and the lights and sounds and everything was it was great. It was a great show. So I've always been really appreciative of that. But yeah.
All right.
I love getting into that outlaw country stuff, man.
I never took that dive. Man, too much of that bourbon. My allergies aren't doing anything though.
Yeah, but it did work.
Yeah.
Yeah, Waylon is.
I'll take that trade off.
Yeah. Waylon's killer, man. He's my favorite.
Yeah, you put that guitar and through a Phase 90 into a Fender amp, and there's Waylon. You play a D chord, and that's it.
He was pointing at the George Harrison telecast.
Right.
Yeah. Needs a little bit more leather on it, but it's all
sure, yeah. Yeah, and I've actually heard that some of that was a flanger and not a phaser. So, but whatever, it's all the same.
Shooter's got some good stuff too, man. His son.
Yeah. He has a lot of electronic, or soundscapes that he pushes into some of that music too.
Yeah, it's weird hearing like the next generation. Hank the Third.
Yeah,
it's got some.
Yeah. Oh, Lucas Nelson. That would have been one of my six. One of my six would actually, you can kick out whatever I said. Cut out one of those
Somebody's
ones.
Gone.
Lucas Nelson, Promise of the Real is great.
Yeah, he is. I saw him at Blossom. His dad was playing there like 2 years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was killer. Absolutely.
Nice.
You got to start listening to some outlaw country.
I do.
Yeah, you do.
Next season, you come in, you have a big cowboy hat on.
I went and recorded a country song once down in Nashville.
Oh yeah.
Rowdy Ass Cowboy. It is a terrible song, and I'm playing Van Halen on it on drums.
There you go.
I was like, I don't like this song. I'm just going to play Ice Cream Man.
Where else are you performing coming up this spring or summer?
Kent American Roots Music Fest.
What happened to your cymbals? We have a Kent bell over here.
Every time somebody says Kent, I ring a bell, but I have no cymbals over there.
Ding! So that's at the end of the month. That's the day my record's released. There you go.
The 28th.
28th, we're going to say. Yeah, that sounds
7th,
right.
whatever it was.
Yeah. And then the Beachland release May 16th, which is people can make it out during the week is nice, but it'll be earlier. It won't be a late show. Yeah. And
hopefully that falls on one of the Tuesdays. I don't have rehearsal. It's every other Tuesday. So
okay.
Yeah, we'll push something.
Yeah, because it's not too far for you. It's out east-ish a little bit.
Right. Yeah, we all go there. My band's based all out of that Men's area. Actually, our singer lives in Wycliffe, which is even a little closer.
Yeah.
Or Willowick, one of those.
Those are the same place.
Or Willoughby, one of them.
So I don't really have much booked beyond that for this band, and there's, I just have a handful of things the rest of the year. So I don't know if this will maybe in the fall will turn into some sort of touring kind of situation, but I'm a little focused on the band that I'm in called Country Honk, because we're releasing an EP as well, and like playing a ton of shows this year, and so that's kind of taken more.
What's your role?
Priority. Guitar player, singer. Everybody's writing too for it too, which has been really fun. So
Country Honk, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And then how about the guitars you use?
I still use the Gibson Gospel every once in a while. I have a Martin D18 Golden Era. That was the best thing I bought in 2012. I went to buy a 60s D18, and I went to a little shop in Nashville. What were they called? Cotton Music. And I went in and talked to the dude, and I was like, "Yep." I'm like, "You got that 63?" I wanted early 60s. And it was, I think it was around $2,700 or something. And I was like, yeah, I'm like that. I think I'm going to take that home with me. I'm like, let me play it for a little while. I was down there for Americana Fest around 2012, I think. And I played it. And then he was like, well, what do you do? And I told him what I do, and told him I played like 100 gigs a year. And he's like, I don't know if this is going to be the guitar for you. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, it doesn't have a truss rod. He's like, the neck's reset now, but you're going to have to reset the neck in a couple of years because it doesn't have a truss rod, and you're going to, he's like, and you're playing it out all the time. He's like, you should play one of the new Golden Eras, one of the new Martin Golden Eras that the D18s they're putting out. And I was like, yeah, man, bring it out. He's like, oh yeah, we don't sell new Martins. And I was like, oh, okay. So I like walked out.
Somewhere else.
Yeah, I walked out, and I was like, whoa, like that's, so I went and bought a Golden Era, and it was great. And then I went back there like 2-3 years later, and the dude's wife was like, what the hell did you do? Like, she was so pissed off. But I told him about it, and I was like, dude, it's the best recommendation, because I wouldn't, I would have been repaired all the time. I have
there's no Chuck Kaminsky with you on too.
Right, yeah. I have for electrics, I have, I really don't play my Les Paul much, and I have an old, a Samick that's a hollow body that sounds great. I have a Gretsch that's a hollow body that sounds great, but I really don't play them too much. And then a Telly that John Hill from Bootleg Guitars made me in like 2014, 15, something like that. So that's kind of pretty much using the Telly. If I play electric at all, that's what I'm playing. So, and then I guess my big purchase was I was in Nashville one time. I went to Carter Vintage Guitars, and I was playing $20,000 to $30,000 Super 400s and L5s and L7 old Gibsons, and I played this one. I just was playing. I'm like, these are great. And I took this one down and started playing it, and the neck was the best neck I had ever put my left hand on. Right, and I was like, let me just sit here and play it, because it's not $20,000. I'm not going to pay $20,000 for it. And I played it for like 5 minutes, and I turned they have the little card there on the neck, on the headstock, and I turned it, and it wasn't $20,000. And I was like adding up in my head, like, well, if I do this, and it was attainable. So I was there all week. Went back a day after. Walter Carter, that owns Carter Vintage, he was like, "You're here to see it again?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "You want to plug it in?" He's like, "It's got the pickup, like you can, And it was kind of a player's L7. It's a 1948. So I played it for like 2 hours, and he was just laughing, and I put it back. And then the third day I came back, and I was like, what's the number? Like, what's the actual number? He's like, let me call the guy. And he called it, and it was maybe just $100 off or something. He's like, you can have that. And so I bought it. And then when I came back up, the funny story that I, tell my friends, and now it's funny because it's dead and gone, but I came back up, and my ex-wife saw the guitar, and it's old. I mean, it looks beat up and old, and she was like, well, what's that? It was in this raggedy old case. And I was like, it's a little guitar I found. Cool. And I opened it up, and she was like, was it expensive? And I was like, it wasn't $1,000. And I like closed the thing, and she never knew. So this might be the podcast, which I don't give a shit anyway. But it was my money. I made it, and I did whatever I want with it, Yeah. But it was more than at one time. It was more than I'd ever bought something for, So, but just put it into my retirement fund. Yeah, it'll be fine. Yeah. But I use that a lot too with Country Honk. I use that a lot. It sounds great. It's it's full hollow body. It's got a nice de-arming pickup on it that somebody screwed down onto the body, which is but with flat wand screws, because it was in the late 40s. Yeah. And that brought the price down, which is the thing. Why it wasn't 15 grand.
The best. I do the same thing. I pick up guitars like.
But they did it in the 50s or early 50s. You know, they did all that work to it, and the guy that I bought it from through Carter because it was on consignment, and I was like, do you think that that just give him my email because I just would love to have this history. It was a one owner, and he said the person played out a lot, and it wasn't like they were famous. It doesn't matter, I mean, they could have been, but this guitar was beat up. But they played out a lot, and I was like, well, just see if they'll send me an email, and then they never did. So it would have been nice to have the history behind it,
Yeah, I love finding old Gibsons with a neck repair, It's like, all right, I can afford
they still
this
sound
now.
great, right? Yeah. Yeah. So that's my arsenal, yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Any more questions for Thor Platter?
Should we do our final one?
Yeah.
Okay.
If there's nothing else. Anything you'd like to add?
I'm good.
So the final one is the movie, TV show, or YouTube channel recommendation.
I've been thinking about this the whole time. No, I'm just there's. I was just gonna go YouTube. There's this great couple that my girlfriend and I follow, and it's the Adventures of A&K, and they're just really sweet, and they go on trips with their van, and they were way ahead of the van lifer kind of weird stuff, but they hit places and they love food too, and like we love food, so that's always good, and really great editing, really great drone shots, really just pretty cool stuff. And then we spent a month in Florida this year, which was my brag for this year, but I played some gigs down there, and my girlfriend worked remotely. We were in Key Largo, and we got to meet this couple that we've been following too, and they're called Life by the Bow, and they take what A&K do like mountain wise, and they do it in the Keys on boats, and they have underwater drones and shit, and
nice.
it's like mind blowing, and they're fishing, and it's caused us to want to like go out and fish for these fish, and we cut them on the dock and all that stuff. We didn't do it, but that's another great just two couples. Yeah, Life by the Bow, it's called.
Yeah, A&K, that one, like my wife and I, we travel a lot, so we follow these travel couples. But that one, every time I see it, I start singing Cypress Hill, like, "A to the motherfucking capital, boy."
Right, that's funny. Yeah, they're no bullshit. Like you can look up wherever they went, and they're not saying like it's the greatest things of all these places, but it gives you something to do.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes it gets to be a shame when those couples blow up and then they're doing trips that you're like, well, I could never afford that.
Right.
That's fantastic.
Right. They're kind of still in that sweet spot, and they have 130,000 subscribers.
There's like Kara and Nate, and they're like, we're riding the most expensive train ever.
Yeah.
Come along with us. This bathroom's solid gold, and they paint your turds.
We're pulling $1 million a year off YouTube. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That'd be all right, though. I could handle that. Mm-hmm. Check out Shillings Abroad. We get lost on trains in Italy. That's actually our only one that has like actual views, is us getting on the wrong trains in Italy for a while and just getting frustrated about it. It's pretty fun.
Hit like and subscribe.
Yeah.
That's right.
Do the same to this podcast.
That's right.
Maybe we can get to 10 subscribers.
You guys are doing a good thing. You got more. Oh, you're on the podcast one, yeah. Yeah, I was thinking of your YouTube channel.
Yeah, our YouTube channel, we're over 100. No, we do 1,000, we can start getting paid.
You can do a live thing now with over 100.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the limit. You have to have 100 subscribers to go live.
We're there.
Yeah, we got 100.
You're definitely over that, yeah.
Sweet.
Cool.
No, yeah, keep doing what you guys are doing. This is great.
You're bringing us breaking news.
Right. Cool. Yeah. I was afraid we'd get some more episodes than subscribers at one point, but no, we're good.
Yeah. Woohoo.
We're having a blast, and then we get to go check out all these shows.
Right?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. All right, Thor Platter. We'll see you on April 28th or May 16th. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is great.
No problem. Yeah, everyone be on the lookout for the new album. We have a physical copy here. That's As Fast as It Goes. Recorded in 2 days.
Mm-hmm. As fast as it goes.
All right, and for Kaya Sound Podcast, I'm Evan Stone.
I'm Chuck Schilling.
Peace.